Superior pond, superior care, your backyard retreat beyond compare. Minnesota's finest at your call. Your pond stays perfect all year long.
All right, diving right in today, we're going deep on something you might not expect, pond leaks. You sent in some interesting stuff, including that discovery guide from Superior Ponds. Sounds like you're ready to become, like, a leak detective, huh?
Yeah, that's the spirit. Even if you don't have a pond yourself, the process we'll talk about, it applies to, solving problems generally. It's all about observation, thinking things through. Little Sherlock Holmesing.
Oh, I like that. So you mentioned you saw the water level drop suddenly. Before we freak out, how do we even know if it's a real leak or just like normal evaporation?
That's a good question to start with, actually. Ponds can lose a surprising amount of water naturally, especially, if you're in a place like Minnesota. We're talking 1 to 2 inches a week just from evaporation.
Whoa, 1 to 2 inches. Okay, so if it's more than that, then it's probably a leak. But then where do we even begin looking?
Well, think of your pond like almost a crime scene. The culprit could be hiding in plain sight, those rocks around the edge. Seem innocent, right? But settling ground can make him shift, creating gaps for water to escape.
Wait, hold on. How much settling are we talking here? Is it something you'd notice? Or is this like microscopic movement?
It can be subtle, yeah, but over time, even a small shift, it adds up. That's why, experts recommend overestimating your liner needs by, say, 15% during construction. You're basically gilding in a bit of wiggle room for the earth to do its thing.
Okay, so lesson 1, a little planning up front can save you headaches later. What else should we watch out for?
We've got our rocky suspects, but the liner itself can be the problem too. Hidden folds, especially under those rocks. They can act like little channels, directing water right out of your pond.
Folds. Seriously, I never would have thought of that. Seems like such a small detail.
It is, but those tiny details matter. That's why a smooth, wrinkle-free liner installation is so important. And speaking of sneaky culprits, what about all those pretty plants around your pond?
Yeah, okay. I mean, plants need water to grow, so I can see how their roots could cause some issues.
Exactly. And some plants are worse than others. Weeping willows, birch trees, even cattails. Their roots can be pretty aggressive. If they get into your liner, you've got a leak for sure.
So it's about choosing the right plants and being smart about where you plant them. Got it. Anything else we should be worried about?
Can't forget about the plumbing, right? All those connections, filter boxes, waterfalls. You wouldn't believe how often the problem is hiding there. Superior Ponds, they said half the leaks they find are in those areas.
Half. Wow, that's a lot. I guess all those pipes and connections is just asking for trouble.
Exactly. A loose connection here, a worn seal there. It all adds up. And sometimes it's not even a broken part, just normal wear and tear that creates vulnerabilities.
Okay, so we've got our list of potential culprits. Now, how do we actually find the leak? Let's get into detective mode here.
First step might surprise you. Turn off all your pumps and any water features you've got.
Wait, turn everything off? For how long? That seems pretty drastic.
Yeah.
I know, right? But it's the best way to isolate the pond itself. If the water level keeps dropping, you know the leak's in the pond structure. If it stabilizes, then you start looking at your equipment.
Okay, that makes sense. But what if you have fish? Won't they need the pumps for oxygen?
Good point. You'd need an aerator in that case. Basically, it's a device that adds oxygen to the water. Kind of like a mini fountain. You can find them at, like, any pond supply store.
All right, so pumps off, aerator on, then we just wait and see what the water level does.
Exactly. You're letting the pond kind of reveal its secrets.
Yeah.
Once that level stops dropping, you've found the approximate height of your leak. Then you can really focus your search.
Like a water line marking the spot. So let's say the water level does stabilize. What's next? Do we just start digging around?
Not quite. You want to start with a good visual inspection. Walk around the edge of the pond, really looking for any damp spots, erosion, anything that looks out of place. Water can travel, so the leak might not be right at the edge.
Yeah, true. It could be hiding under a rock or something. I'm thinking a flashlight might be helpful here.
Definitely. And don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. Turn over those rocks, check under plants. You never know what you'll find.
This is turning into a real investigation. What else are we looking for?
Once you've checked the perimeter, it's time to zoom in on those connections and seals, especially around your plumbing. This is where you need a keen eye and some patience.
Oh, yeah, tell me about it. I can already see myself crawling around with a magnifying glass trying to find a tiny crack.
You might be surprised. We're talking cracks, loose silicone, loose threads, Anything that could compromise those seals. Fiddly work, but crucial for a watertight system.
Okay, so we've got our perimeter check, our connection inspection. What if we still can't find the leak? Anything else we can try?
Well, remember how we turned off the pumps earlier? If the water level didn't drop during that time, the leak might be in the equipment itself. And that's a whole other mystery to solve.
So let's say we've turned everything off, watched that water level, and we're pretty sure it's the equipment that's leaking. Where do we even begin with that? It's all a bit, I don't know, overwhelming.
Yeah, I get that. It can feel like a lot. But just like with the pond itself, break it down into steps, right? First, take a good look at the pump itself, any cracks in the housing, any loose connections, that kind of thing.
You know what? Now that you mention it, my pump's been making this weird rattling sound lately. I just figured, oh, it's getting old, but maybe that's like a sign of something more serious.
Could be. Worth checking out for sure.
Yeah.
Even a tiny crack can turn into a big leak over time. And don't forget about those seals. They wear out, just like any other part.
So if I do find a crack, does that mean replacing the whole pump?
It depends. Sometimes you can just reseal it, but if it's really bad, yeah, you might need a new one. Better safe than sorry. Right.
Right, makes sense. What about the filter? Any like common leak spots there we should know about?
Oh, absolutely. Check the connections going in and out of the filter, look for cracks in the housing, and make sure the filter media, the stuff inside, is sitting right. A lot of times, it's a simple fix.
This whole thing is making me realize I haven't been the best at pond maintenance. More like reacting to problems instead of preventing them. Probably why I'm dealing with leaks in the first place.
That's a great point, though. Preventing leaks, it really comes down to, like, regular maintenance and being proactive. It's like taking your car in for a tune-up, A little care up front saves you big headaches later.
Okay, I'm all about saving headaches. What does that actually look like, being proactive with pond care? Give me the game plan here.
It's about getting to know your pond really intimately. Like, make it a habit to inspect everything regularly. The equipment, rocks, plants, liner, the whole deal. Look for anything that seems off, any signs of wear and tear.
So we're basically playing detective all year round, even when there's no leak.
Exactly. The more you know what's normal for your pond, the easier it is to spot a problem before it becomes a major leak. And those little details matter. A rock that's moved a little, a plant root growing too close to the liner. Those are your early warning signs.
This is making me rethink how I approach pond care. It's not just skimming leaves and topping off the water. It's about, like, paying attention to the whole ecosystem.
You got it. It is an ecosystem.
Yeah.
And it's always changing with the seasons, the weather, everything. So yeah, ongoing care, making adjustments, that's key.
I was thinking about that whole overestimate your liner thing. Anything else we can do during, like, the building stage to prevent leaks down the line?
Oh, tons. Choosing the right materials is huge. A good quality liner installed correctly, that's your first line of defense.
Yeah, like building a house with a strong foundation. It all starts there.
You got it. And don't skimp on the details. The right underlayment, good rocks, even that type of soil you use, all that plays a role in making a pond that's less likely to leak.
Wow, I had no idea. This deep dive has been, like, seriously eye-opening.
Glad to hear it. Knowledge is power, especially with ponds.
For sure. So we've talked about finding leaks, preventing them. What are your, like, top takeaways for our listeners? What do we really need to remember from all this?
I think the big one is finding and fixing leaks doesn't have to be a nightmare. Understand how ponds work, be observant, and have a system. Anyone can do it with a little know-how.
Yeah, it's like you said before, channeling your inner Sherlock Holmes. And I love that you emphasized prevention. So much easier to catch something early than deal with a big mess later. It's funny, we started talking about, literal pond leaks, but this feels like bigger than that now, almost like philosophical.
Yeah, I see that. It's definitely a metaphor for something beyond just the pond.
Exactly. We're talking about being proactive, paying attention to those little things, fixing the small cracks before they turn into, like, huge problems. That applies to, well, pretty much everything, right?
It does. It's about recognizing those energy leaks, those time leaks, things that drain us without us even realizing it. And just like with a pond, catching them early is key.
I love that. So this wasn't just about pond leaks, it was about life leaks too. That's going to stick with me.
I hope so. And just like a well-maintained pond, it brings that beauty, that peacefulness. Well, a well-maintained life, it can do that too, bring you peace, fulfillment.
That's a great way to put it. Speaking of resources, you mentioned that Superior Pond's website, right?
Yeah.
Anything in particular our listeners should check out?
Definitely. Their pond care guide, it's amazing. Covers everything, plants, equipment, the whole 9 yards. And if you're looking for some inspiration, their pond designs, they're like works of art. Seriously.
Okay, adding that to my list. Well, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into pond leaks, or should I say life leaks?
I think you covered it all, yeah.
I feel way more prepared now to handle any leaks that come up in my pond, or in my life for that matter.
Yeah. That's what we like to hear. And remember, even a small leak can make a big difference over time. So stay vigilant, stay curious, and don't be afraid to get your hands dirty.
Fantastic advice. A huge thank you to you for sharing all this incredible knowledge with us today. It's been amazing.
My pleasure. Always great to dive deep with you.
And of course, a big thank you to you, our listener, for joining us on this adventure. We hope you learned a thing or two and feel ready to tackle those leaks head on. Until next time, happy ponding, everyone.
Your backyard retreat beyond compare. Minnesota's finest at your call. Your pond stays perfect all year long.